Hi everyone, in this video I'm painting an ocean sunset with oil paint. I'm going to show you my process, which includes an acrylic underpainting, how I mix my colors, and what materials I use. Everything I use is linked in the description. I'm going to start with the acrylic underpainting. For this I'm using Liquitex Basics in primary yellow, burnt umber, titanium white, peony red, and manganese blue. I mix everything with a palette knife and I like to pre-mix my colors before I start painting. I have some water in a cup and I'm just mixing my acrylic paint on some scrap canvas. I have my reference photo on my iPad off to the side, and I also put it on screen so you can see how the colors are comparing. I'm not worried about the colors being super accurate here because this is all going to be covered with oil paint later. I just try to mix the main colors that I'm seeing, and sometimes they aren't even that close to what they should be. I mix some sky colors, a purple for the clouds, a blue for the ocean, and a brown for the sea oats area. The underpainting is optional, but I find it helps create a foundation for the oil paint. An alternative to the underpainting is just using a toned canvas or panel. You could also do an underpainting with even more limited colors, like one color for the sky instead of a gradient or whatever works for you. Feel free to skip this part if you don't like doing an acrylic underpainting. Once I switch to oils, I'll go into more detail about the colors, how I mix them, the medium I use, and how I clean my paintbrushes. I usually prime my canvases and panels before I even do an acrylic underpainting with additional layers of gesso, just so I can get the surface to have more texture to grip the oil paint later on. After those layers, I will usually do some kind of grid to help me lay down the correct proportions when I go in with the acrylic underpainting. I like to keep the paint a little watered down so it's not going on really thick and creating a lot of brush strokes. So I'm just going to lay out the sky gradient and then the basic shapes of my reference photo, and then I'll move on to the oil paint where I can focus more on getting the accurate colors and adding details. Now that the underpainting is dry, I'm switching over to oil paint. Everything I'm using is linked in the description of this video. I'm using titanium white, cadmium-free yellow, alizarin crimson, permanent rose, raw umber, and Gamblin Prussian blue. For my medium today, I'm using liquid, and in my brush cleaning jar, I have Gamblin Gamsol for cleaning my brushes when I'm done. For brushes, I'm using Rosemary & Co. I'll be using extra long flats, a rigger brush, a fan brush, and a long filbert. I'll be using these in a few different sizes. The palette that I always use is called New Wave Glass Palette, and it's tone gray, which helps with judging colors more accurately. I also like to keep all the colors I'm using out on my palette so I don't have to keep grabbing new paint every time I mix. I try to just mix the main colors of my reference photo. There's so many different tones in a photo, so it can be really easy to get carried away with what colors you think you might need. I found just having the main colors and then tweaking them as I paint creates a more cohesive painting and helps you from mixing too many colors. I'm going to start with the sky colors. At the very top of the sky, there's a really light purple that I'm trying to match. Since it's so light, I'm going to first mix a purple and then I'm going to add just a tiny bit of that into my white. This helps keep you from mixing a color that is too dark. The reference photo has a warm undertone overall, so I make sure to add some yellow, and I adjust it with just small amounts of paint to get it to my liking. I'm going to call this color Sky Color 1. I take half of that to start the next sky color, which I will call Sky Color 2. It's a lighter gray but with a little warmth to it since we're slowly moving into warmer colors closer to the horizon. Next, I skip down and mix the brightest pink in the sky. The key to getting these pink colors is that permanent rose color by Winsor & Newton. That pink mixed with some yellow makes the best peachy sky color. Since I am working with pastel sky colors in my reference photo, you want to make sure you're adding just a little bit of these bright colors at a time. That pink will be called Sky Color 4. Next, I take some of that pink to mix a lighter, more orange tone color that will sit between that warm gray and that bright pink. This one will be called Sky Color 3. Now I'm going to move on to mixing the cloud colors. As you can see on the reference photo, there's a cloud bank right at the horizon line and then some clouds a little bit above it. I'm going to use the same colors for both of those. So it's going to be mainly a darker purple and a brighter pink, and these will be referred to as purple clouds 5 and pink clouds 6. On the screen, I've added a color guide showing the colors I mixed and where they'll go in the reference photo. You can screenshot this if it helps. I'm putting a glob of liquid on my palette. This is my medium, and I dip my paintbrush in this and mix it into my paint as I'm painting. This helps thin the consistency of the paint and speed the drying time. I'm adding a thin piece of painter's tape to help establish the horizon line. So now I'm going to paint the sky gradient. I start with Sky Color 1. Then I add a combination of Sky Color 1 and Sky Color 2 to the panel. Then Sky Color 2 by itself, then Sky Color 2 and 3 together, then Sky Color 3, and then Sky Color 4. So essentially, I mixed a gradient on my palette, and to make it appear even softer on my panel, I pre-mix those colors next to each other before adding them to my panel. That way I'm not blending the colors of the sky together on the panel. When I get to the clouds, I just leave a rough outline of the shape. I can perfect the clouds when I start painting them, and since oil paint takes a while to dry, if I just paint over the clouds with sky color, it won't be dry in time when I start painting the clouds. I'm now adding Sky Color 4 and blending that into Sky Color 3. I like using a large filbert when I lay down the sky colors and blending slightly using that brush. Then I take a fan brush and use that to lightly soften and blend the colors. I'm now starting the clouds. I'm using the colors Pink Cloud 6 and Purple Clouds 5. I also use a combination of the two to get different values, looking at my reference photo to tell me where the darkest purples are and where the brightest pinks are. I don't load my paintbrush up with too much paint, just enough to lightly cover the surface. When I'm painting the edges of the cloud, I gently work the cloud colors into the sky colors surrounding it so it appears soft like clouds in real life. To lightly blend the clouds together, I found a round paintbrush that is very soft, and I'm using that to blend the cloud colors together. I didn't want to use a bigger paintbrush for this or the fan brush because I don't want to overblend or blend the cloud into the sky around it because the colors are all still wet here. So I'm just going to continue referencing my reference photo to know what cloud shapes to paint and repeating the process of lightly laying down the color and lightly blending with a smaller soft paintbrush. I'm wrapping up painting for the day here, so I quickly paint the clouds right at the horizon line using Purple Clouds 5, and I'm using a fan brush to gently blend that into Sky Color 4. I did this so that I could go back and add more defined clouds tomorrow without losing the chance to have some of the clouds lightly blended. If I had enough time, I would have just kept going on these clouds today. So now it's the next day, the clouds are dry, but I need to finish the cloud at the horizon. I'm going to use the same combination of colors, Purple Clouds 5 and Pink Clouds 6, and paint the details of the clouds. I also take Sky Color 4 to paint some breaks in between some of the clouds where the sky is showing. I'm still using Liquid as my medium here to layer on top of the first layer. So I'm going to stop here for today's video. Here's what the finished clouds look like, and also a little sneak peek of the ocean in the very beginning of painting the sea oats. I'll be making a part 2 where I cover the color mixing and techniques for everything below the horizon, including the ocean and the sea oats. I hope this video helped you with mixing colors and with some techniques for painting clouds. If it did, feel free to give a like and consider subscribing for more painting videos like this. As always, all the products I used are linked in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.